racism. We reject white supremacy. We reject anti-Semitism. We reject the KKK. We reject neo-Nazis. We reject domestic terrorism. And we reject hatred. And we will do every single thing in our power to keep hate out of our city. Those veterans didn't have to be asked twice to condemn swastikas and all that they stand for. Yet our president had to be shamed into doing the same thing 2 days later. This was never a many sides issue. This is a right and wrong issue.
Now, as repulsive as any bigoted group is, from the KKK to the Black Panthers, we do have this pesky thing called the First Amendment. But more important is this: who is the arbiter of what is hate? In other words, if the mayor of Boston considers this program hate speech, are we also excluded from Beantown? And so this is the problem. The left is controlling the argument, the terminology, and the definition of hate in this country, which leads us back to Charlottesville, Virginia. 2 crimes were committed born of 2 kinds of hate. The murderer, maniac who smashed his car into a crowd of people, that was criminal. And the effort to erase our unique American history, that too is criminal, born of many, many decades of fascistic hatred from the left. Joining me now from Southern California, former policy analyst in the Reagan White House, political commentator, filmmaker, and author of the new book, The Big Lie, Exposing the Nazi Roots of the American Left, Dinesh D'Souza. Dinesh, timing is everything, as they say in life, and your book comes out right during all this, what happened in Charlottesville. And your book essentially outlines the genesis for hate in this country, the Nazi roots coming from not the right, the left.
Fascism and Nazism have always been on the left. The founder of fascism, Mussolini, was a Marxist. Hitler was the head of a party that was called the National Socialist German Workers' Party. And fascism is the ideology of the centralized state. It was recognized to be so by the fascists. It was also recognized to be so by American progressives. FDR, the progressive icon, was a big fan of Mussolini. He actually sent members of his brain trust to fascist Italy. He regarded fascism as more progressive than the New Deal. He wanted to bring fascist ideas to America. Mussolini, for his part, was a big fan of FDR. So what I'm getting at here is that this is the actual history of fascism. And in a kind of weird twist, the left now is trying to construct a narrative in which the fascists are somehow right-wing. But that's part of the big lie. That's why the book, I think, is appropriately titled The Big Lie. The big lie is the idea that fascism and Nazism are on the right. They're not.
And they're using the guise of fascism to attack our culture and our history from the Civil Wars. And I've said on this program many times that Robert E. Lee is no less a veteran of this country than the Tuskegee Airmen.
Stop the PC police.
You have what we might call Democrat-itis. It is a disease. It is a sickness. You are ill, Congressman.
Stop the federal Leviathan.
So they're never going to be happy. They're never going to be happy until Donald Trump is removed from office. And even then, they're not going to be happy.
Stop the assault on the Constitution.
It was Barack Obama who committed high crimes and misdemeanors. It was Barack Obama who usurped the Constitution, left and right. It was Barack Obama who should have been brought up on impeachment charges.
Stop the tape.
Stop the tape. Stop the tape. Stop the tape. Stop the tape. Stop the tape. Stop the tape.
Stop by the Daily Ledger.
Police in North Carolina are seeking criminal charges for protesters who toppled a Confederate monument in Durham and are asking the public for help identifying that group. On Monday, the angry mob was caught on camera, as you see here, destroying the Confederate soldiers' monument in an act of vandalism after tearing down and stomping on the monument. The crowd then marched through downtown Durham, blocking traffic and disrupting business in the area. Some locals are upset about the vandalism because the statue is meant to honor soldiers who fought in the Civil War.
I think it's terrible. I don't think they should have done that. I think anybody that tears something down should be made to pay for it.
North Carolina has a law protecting monuments and preventing their removal from public property without permission from state officials. This particular monument was installed in 1924 in memory of the more than 200,000 Confederate soldiers killed in the Civil War. Officials have not commented on whether the statue will be restored. And President Trump doubles down on blaming both sides for the violence in Charlottesville. During a press conference at Trump Tower today, the president said that there were some very bad people and some very fine people on both sides. This as a group of self-described anti-fascists are sharing the blame for fueling the recent violence in Charlottesville. Critics are blasting the left-leaning group, better known as Antifa, for its role that day and slamming the mainstream media for ignoring it. Antifa uses militant tactics against others who they deem that is as fascists in order to advance its agenda. They claim to be battling far-right authoritarianism, but many argue that they are escalating violence instead. Critics hope that they will be held accountable for their role in the weekend violence. One America's Marty Golingan has more.
In a country where individual freedom should be honored and protected, so-called anti-fascist protesters are actively trying to shut down any point of view that doesn't align with their liberal sensibilities. The assault on the First Amendment right is a growing trend on college campuses and in the streets of America. The far-left rebel group Antifa is ever present anywhere support for the Trump administration might be gathering, or if a conservative voice wants to be heard. Antifa slowly started planting chapters in the U.S. during the 2016 election, as it would be the perfect opportunity to introduce this anti-fascism idea. The group recruits from minority groups, the mentally ill, and anti-body shaming communities. They usually dress in all black, keeping their faces covered. On Inauguration Day, Black Bloc protesters destroyed storefronts in D.C. in protest of President Trump. They also assaulted right-wing Speaker Richard Spencer while he was speaking to news reporters. GOP lawmakers say the University of California, Berkeley, the so-called birthplace of the free speech movement, has become a place where free speech goes to die. In February, Antifa members destroyed much of the campus upon news of a scheduled speech by former Breitbart editor Milo Yiannopoulos. And in April, commentator Ann Coulter canceled a speaking event at UC Berkeley after administrators couldn't ensure her safety due to the destruction on campus. And recently in Portland, Oregon, Antifa protesters were arrested for inciting violence against law-abiding conservatives who were peacefully gathering for a free speech rally. These anarchists are not new. They came out of the woodwork during the 2011 Occupy movement and the anti-globalization movements of the late 1990s and early 2000s. Antifa's roots originate back to the early 20th century Europe. Their presence was felt especially in Germany and France due to the polarized political climate in Europe. The group was known for killing, lighting fires, and obstructing transportation. They also have a communist ideal system and have affiliated groups in the Middle East.
Extent that you don't ask questions about who are you speaking with. That's a mistake. You asked
Why do you think you got in?
Antifa is rumored to be funded by billionaire George Soros, whose emails showed an agenda of destabilizing Eastern Europe for their non-refugee policies. Soros is also affiliated with corporate globalists who are reportedly seeking ways to end the populist agenda. Once a year since 1954, this secret society gathers the most influential people, both businessmen and political leaders, at the so-called Bilderberg Conference to talk about global economic issues. Topics this year include, quote, why is populism growing, the war on information regarding fake news, and environmental challenges.
It's not your first time at Bilderberg, correct?
Can you help us understand why is there such a mystique or mystery or secrecy about it? No comment.
The secretive nature of the event, however, has many asking other questions, like why are no reporters allowed inside the event? Why aren't there any reports or minutes of the talks written up? And why those in attendance are required to stay hushed on what was discussed? Some say through more journalistic digging we may find an answer. But until then, these deep-pocket billionaires will do whatever it takes to stop opposing viewpoints around the world, even if it means backing far-left anarchists as a means to an end. Marty Golingan, One America News.